Our first movie tells the story of a friendship behind prison walls that spans more than 20 years.
Welcome to episode 35 of Middlebrow Madness, an exercise in podcast hubris. My name is Derek Gane.
I'm Isabelle Arf. Derek,
Yes.
I was thinking about interrupting you during your intro because I was so excited for what I have to tell you today, but I realized that I don't want to step on anything. I want this to get the full breathing room it deserves.
All right, I mean, just for the record, that intro is like 4 seconds long.
Well, I've interrupted you during it before.
Like before I've said my name?
Yeah, definitely have.
All right.
Real fans, real heads. No, but
I guess I'm not a real fan.
I mean, I don't listen to this shit after I record it. Come on. Oh, okay, I do after I edit it. But
I do for fun. Sometimes I go back and listen to some of our famous bits.
all of our goofs and gags.
That's right.
We need to do a Bros Better, Bros Best, but just for our hilarious goofs. But Derek, I found the most important thing we've yet talked about for an intro bullshit. I've told you multiple times off air that I'm so excited to tell you about this.
You've been hyping this.
I've been hyping this, and I don't think it will disappoint. I will also give it up for Trash Future, because that's where I heard about this. The podcast Trash Future, which is also like my favorite podcast. But, okay, so I want you to think in your head, envision, okay. Dream, imagine.
I'm picturing in my mind.
Vision board. What's the worst thing that technology could do to relationships?
What's the worst thing that technology could do to relationships?
Not like specific relationships, even like the general concept of relationships.
Well, it's either one of two things. It's either some Black Mirror shit that I don't bother to conjure right now, or it's probably just the erosion and flattening of context or in like interpersonal relationships, interpersonal relationships.
I'd say it's both of those things.
Okay.
This is a really special thing. So the website that I'm looking at, I'm going to give you the name and I want you to guess. It's called girlfriend.finance.
Girlfriend.finance. Now, there's something here that there's two images that come to mind. One of them that I want it to be, and one of them I want it less to be.
Okay.
Now, girlfriend.finance, in a perfect scenario, is, I guess, just girlfriends who help you do your taxes?
Okay, that sounds great. It's not that.
See, this is what I thought. That's what I was hoping it was, but I don't think that's what it was going to be. My other theory, and what I fear it might actually be, is some kind of financial domination operation.
Oh no, Derek! It's way more dehumanizing than that.
Oh my god!
You know, findoms, they do good work as long as they're responsible. I don't have any problems with them. Hey, get your money. But have you always thought, hey, my relationship's going great. I want to introduce NFTs into here.
Oh, of course.
For those who don't know,
how could it be anything else? It was always going to be NFTs. I was just blind to it. The scales have fallen from my eyes.
So many,
of course,
so many
NFTs.
NFT articles to read you at some point, because it's a great source of just the worst things. But
okay, so wait.
Should we explain what NFT is real quick?
It's okay. You might be in a better position because it's an NFT. It stands for non-fungible token.
Correct.
And beyond that, I don't really know. So the blockchain is involved somehow?
Yes. So fungible is like the ability to exchange things for equivalent things. NFT is obviously one you can't exchange. It is a thing in and of itself.
It is the essence of a thing?
Well, it is proof that you paid for a specific thing, and instead of like a regular Bitcoin token, for instance, those are all evenly exchangeable for whatever you want it to be exchangeable for. Like 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin.
Right.
One NFT does not equal one NFT because they're like unique things. And specifically, like what you're buying with an NFT is you're buying an entry on a blockchain ledger that says you own the thing or that you bought the thing.
So
it's officially yours. So you essentially have proof that you bought the thing. It was originally for a lot of things, but the thing that blew up was like art. So that way you could get a JPEG and everyone else can steal that JPEG, but you could say, hey, I'm the one who paid for this JPEG. I am like the owner of this Pablo Picasso. Like, I own this. Okay. Even if you take pictures of this Picasso, it's not the same thing. Does that make sense?
Two things. One, there is no ontological... Okay, well, that's self-evident, but two things. One, there is no ontological difference between having an NFT for a thing and a low-res JPEG of the same thing.
That is correct, Eric.
Two, you're paying money for a receipt, bro. What are you doing?
Yes, literally that is what it is.
You are killing the earth for a receipt.
Just Bitcoin by itself is actually uses more energy than the Netherlands. But yes. So NFTs have been used for a lot of things, and they've been blowing up recently, and the market's already crashing because people basically because like popular like places that weren't fucking bullshit cryptocurrency things covered it, and everyone's like, oh wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Why would you ever buy this? Yeah. But if you're going to integrate that into your relationships, what you need is...
I forgot we were doing this.
is NFT relationship tokenization for actresses and models to manage their relationships with fans. The way Tinder disrupted dating, we aim to disrupt the way people relate to each other and the way people manage their need to belong to each other. This is their website, by the way. End goal is to replace outdated governmental institutions with an intergovernmental blockchain organization that lets people define their romantic, familial, and personal relationships with flexibility that is required in this brave new world.
That's just word salad. That doesn't fucking mean anything.
Deciphering that, it means that you can get a NFT that says someone is your girlfriend, and then you have proof on the blockchain that they are your girlfriend. You could sell that proof to someone else if you wanted to.
How is this distinguishable from, like, human trafficking?
Because there's not a human being involved, it's just like the concept of a human being is involved.
It's the status of the relationship.
Yes. And
like if I fucking blew 50 grand on an NFT that says that Christina Ricci is my girlfriend, that does not make it so.
To be fair, Christina Ricci would have to, at least in this specific scheme, she'd have to sell that NFT.
This is
to somebody. So, here's like 3 bullet points they have on their website for like why this is good. You can generate buzz of a relationship status tokenization with the help of celebrities. For example, Hollywood actress Bella Thorne is now on OnlyFans, so you can be her boyfriend on girlfriend.finance, which is the saddest sentence I've ever read.
Remember the Bella Thorne discourse like 8 months ago?
I do, when she... fuck Bella Thorne is a short version of it. We're not going to get into it because we already have a lot to talk about with girlfriend.finance.
Look it up!
And the IDF later, and how they relate.
The IDF,
so this is the darkest sentence on here. This will incentivize women to embrace the new normal of relationship tokenization and blockchain relationship management. That's dark. That's also dark.
Relationship tokenization is kind of
what
an
a perfect
evil sentence. And then finally, it's like an evil noun phrase.
This will allow us to focus on providing women with blockchain tools that help them grow and manage their brand and navigate romantic and personal relationships. You need blockchain tools to navigate your romantic and personal relationships. And this will disrupt the way people relate to each other.
I mean, so you're on OnlyFans, you're hustling. So you just like auction off your I guess relationship status to the highest bidder because you don't fucking value yourself as a person, I guess.
I mean, to be fair to like the person who'd be auctioning this off, it doesn't do any shit for you. Like your life is the exact same.
I suppose so, right?
The person who you're selling it to is effectively not a human being to you, which I mean positively because anyone buying this shouldn't be a human being to you. So it doesn't really matter to you. You're just selling off a thing that you can get free money for. I mean, you're destroying the earth while you're doing it, so maybe that's bad. But at least in terms of like a personal relationship, there's nothing there. But
This
if you're the
is
person
so
buying this,
bad.
I mean, there's a lot of great things to this. Number one is that they're starting off, they have like a whole roadmap of how they want to play this out. It starts off with like, internet models, then it moves to actresses and singers, then it moves to everybody.
The president.
So, I mean, hey, if Joe Biden wants to sell you can be his girlfriend. So the interesting thing about this is that they're starting off with like people who would be most likely, I think, realistically to use this, which is internet models. So people who have Patreons, people who have OnlyFans, things like that, where part of the appeal is a parasocial relationship being developed with you by the people who are paying for naked pictures of you. Which, hey, no shade on that. That's how you get a grift, how you can. And I'm totally cool with that.
Also, isn't that the parasocial relationship?
This is just taking it to another level. This is like, if like the girl that you paid on cam shouted you out specifically, and you had like a record, like here's my record of saying I am this cam girl's favorite man. It was like if it's like an internet version. If you went to a strip club and you had a shirt that says I'm the stripper's special boy, and you never touch her, and it's just like a regular strip club experience, but everyone that sees you there knows, okay, he paid extra money so that everyone would know that he paid extra money.
And everyone else thinks you're a fucking loser.
Exactly.
Oh, my lord.
So,
are strip clubs the great sort of microcosm of our universe?
I mean, hey, straight clubs separate fools from their money. And theoretically, at least, give them to women who deserve it more. So, hey, I don't have any. As long as they're run ethically, I have no issues with strip clubs. Per se.
So we should strive more to be like an ethical strip club, is what you're saying.
Honestly, like a worker-owned strip club. That sounds great. So
man, this is going places already. Jesus Christ, this has gone many places already.
They have a subreddit, and they have a Discord.
Lord.
They are more full now than they were. I will say they were basically empty because no one wants this. Why would you want this?
Did you peek in?
Luckily, I didn't have to. It was Trash Future that peeked in.
People, yeah.
Okay, never mind. There's still only 6 members on the subreddit.
Breaking news. And this sucks.
Hold on, I'm loading it up in Discord right now. I'm pulling up the invite. I'm going to join Girlfriend on Finance. I'm doing it as we're recording this. Okay, there's way more there. There's a total of 21 people on the Girlfriend on Finance Discord.
Fuck you guys, man.
To be fair, there was only like 12 before Trash Future did their episode.
Yeah, how many of those people are just people like you who just kind of went in to like laugh at these schmoes?
At this point, most of them.
It's gotta be.
I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 staff members. They're based in Belarus, it seems.
Oh, man.
And they have a pre-sale going on. So if everyone listening, I know you want to get some, want to get 2,000 Girlfriend on Finance coins. Just fair.
Should we buy a Middlebrow Madness NFT maximum? Should we do a Middlebrow Madness maximum friendship NFT?
If it didn't destroy the environment, I'd love that. But you can only buy this, like the smallest you can buy is in measurements of 1 Ethereum. So Derek, without looking.
Oh God.
How much is 1 Ethereum token worth right now? It is less than Bitcoin. It is a good amount less than Bitcoin, I'll say right away.
Is an Ethereum like $2,500 or something?
Currently 26, and that's at a market low. Yeah, it was at $4,000 as of May 10th.
If some weird terrorist in like a 90s movie broke into your house right now and like held you at gunpoint and said, buy an Ethereum token right now, would you be able to do that?
You mean, do I have the money or do I have the like technological capability?
Well, I mean, I was mostly thinking, do you have just $2,500 liquid that you could use to buy an Ethereum thing?
Derek, we are recording this podcast. You know that I don't. And I know you don't either.
I mean, not liquid.
I mean, yes, if I were to sell my laptop and my car, I could buy an Ethereum token. Even then, it'd be rough.
Oh boy. But this was pretty fucking stupid.
But here's the thing it made me think of. Two things. Number one is when they open this up, first of all, it's never going to get here. Like, this is going to shut down soon enough. That's why I wanted to read it early to make sure I got to the website before they get ashamed of it and close it.
It's not going to see 2022.
No. But if they did get to the point where you could do this with people, like regular people, then you could theoretically, you could have your girlfriend create your actual real life girlfriend, create an NFT of your relationship. And then you could break up with her and sell that NFT to anyone in the whole world. And they could have an NFT saying that that person is their girlfriend. You could just do that. And then people have brought this up on the Discord.
But why, though?
And people brought this up in the Discord, and they're like, well, you could, but you shouldn't. And
well, too little, too late, motherfucker.
Exactly. So I love that. It's great. And the thing this made me think of, a lot of things. But the one specifically is I almost originally talked about the IDF cat girl for this episode.
Okay, so I am not... Okay, so I'll let you decide what the answer to this question I'm going to ask is, dear listener. But one of us is a lot more online than the other one. I won't say who.
Who knows who it could be?
Who knows who it could
be? Anybody.
I've heard tangentially about the IDF cat girl, the mythical creature known as the IDF cat girl.
Didn't I post pictures in the... No, I just mentioned her. I apologize.
Yeah, you mentioned her. And I'm like, so is this just a fucking Israeli soldier who like cosplays for fun? Or is this like the IDF being like, check it out, we got cat girls?
I would love that pitch. She is, I will say this, she is marketing herself as it says former IDF soldier. That's not really how the IDF works, but either way, she's not currently active military, who has a TikTok and a Patreon, and she used to have an OnlyFans. I don't think it exists anymore. But I can find dumps of it online. Problem is I'd have to want to look at that, and I don't really. And like the only places that had like dumps of it were shady websites that you had to sign up for a forum account. Everyone on the forum seems to say, yeah, this link works, but either way, I'm not signing up for a sketchy forum to get nude pictures I don't want. Yeah,
this is in 2002. What the fuck?
No. And haste. I don't support exploiting sex workers even when they're part of the IDF.
Sure.
But for those who don't know, there is this person, and they're a former soldier in the IDF. They are a cat girl. They like to wear cat ears and schoolgirl outfits, and they have a Patreon, and they have a, what do you call it? Like I said, TikTok, where they dance provocatively, and there's a lot of pictures in their butt, see here. And the thing that fascinates me about this, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it. One is I'm like 90% sure this is a psyop. Like...
Only 90? This feels like it's like tailor-made to be a honeypot of some kind.
Yes. Like, this is the kind of thing that, first of all, I'd never heard of her. I feel like if this was a thing, I would have heard of her before the recent, I hate this the flare-up of tensions. But the recent incidents around the end of Ramadan in Palestine. I feel like I would have heard of this before. I'm online enough and around enough of both simps and wild-ass leftists that I would have heard of this. And also, her Patreon, the 3 membership levels are honored, revered, and exalted. There's a picture of her cosplaying as Diva from Overwatch. She's clearly trying to do the, what's her name? Gamer Girl Bathwater person.
I should know this.
Belle
Delphine?
Belle Delphine, thank you. She's clearly trying to do that.
I fucking hate that I knew that! What the fuck?
Like, she has a bunch of pictures of her, like, basically doing that stuff. But then, the reason I'm even more sure is that it's not just that she's trying to be, like, an e-thought. I support that. Everyone should be e-thoughts if you feel comfortable being it. I post enough thoughty pictures on my Twitter that, like, I can't judge. But, like, it's not just she's doing that. She also has, like fucking TikToks where she's like, I proudly served as a military police officer for 3 years. Now tell me, do I look like I could harm innocent civilians? Literally yes. A quote from her TikTok. Or Oh, God. She had a, like, caption that was, when they tried to destroy your nation, but you ended up having one of the most powerful armies, and it's her in her uniform.
Oh, no.
And, like, terrifying shit.
This is... Okay, alright, okay. I never do this for your bits at the beginning, but I think this merits an open parentheses before we get to the movies, because we are a movie podcast, I remind you.
Yes.
We will talk about the movies.
And this will be whittled down a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. But, okay, so, Israel, he said with scale.
Oh, my... Okay. So...
Okay, so they have mandatory military service for every adult, right?
They do. But if you're cool, like that one Taylor Swift fan Twitter, you can just...
You can just be like... Yeah, you can be like, fuck this, I don't know about that.
Yeah. And you'll go to prison for like a year or two. Which, like, hey, let's just say, the girl who ran the Taylor Swift fan account that I'm talking about, she's braver than every single IDF troop.
And it's like, so you're a conscientious objector, you go to jail for, I mean, no one in jail is going to be like, traitor. It's like, you are going to be worshipped like a fucking king in there. If you're like, you know what, I'd rather not. Anyways, all that to say, if you were a member of the IDF, if you were in the military, you could just not coast on that. You could just not bring it up. At the very least, you could be, I kind of had to.
Yeah,
it's in the fucking constitution of the country. I wasn't thrilled about it. I try to put a lot of distance between that and myself now. You cannot lean into it is what I'm trying to do. If you're trying to e-thought it up, this is not something you have to bring up. This is something that might come up. And you could be like, well, yeah, Israel has mandatory military service. I wasn't thrilled about the idea of going to jail, so I served, and I'm trying to just not lean into that anymore, which is explain the cat ears and the diva costume.
You can just do the, like, really, like, cowardly Gal Gadot thing, where you're like, oh, like, much peace on both sides, and you just don't say anything. People don't know.
Yeah,
Gal Gadot, former IDF soldier.
Because she's Israeli, you know? That's
yes.
Yeah, you know? Was Gene Simmons in the IDF? legit question.
I don't want to search that. I feel like I've looked at my search things enough. Thank you.
Gene Simmons.
I take the bullet for everything else.
It'll say on his Wikipedia page, right?
Sure. And just to be, this person has also accused Palestinians of faking funerals.
Oh my God.
Which is quite the thing to accuse anyone of, especially in this situation. I'm currently on her TikTok, which has 1.1 million followers now, because people are horny.
People are horny, man.
Dear world, you never defended Jews when they were persecuted and wiped out. Today we stand in our way when we defend ourselves. Say don't stand in our way when we defend ourselves. There's so much stuff to unpack there, that there is an e-thought on TikTok who used to be a member of the IDF. I guess it still is. She can technically be called into military duty at any time. That's how the IDF works. That had a TikTok talking about the right to Israeli self-defense, equating Jewish people with Israel. That is so many layers of extremely online.
The paradox of post-nut clarity is that you have to nut to see clearly. Also, Gene Simmons immigrated to the United States from Israel when he was 8, so did not serve in the IDF, making him a less garbage person than Gal Gadot, weirdly. And Gene Simmons, famously one of the most reprehensible men in rock and roll.
Yes, just a terrible person. Oh, boy.
You want to talk about movies, Isabelle?
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, the entire time I was thinking of doing this bit, I was trying to find a good way to, like, close this bit out. It's depressing
there's no way,
surreal. Man. And when I saw the, like, cat girl IDF soldier, it was one of the most, like, disconcerting and, like, almost, it felt like getting punched in the face and then, like, just being dizzy for a while afterwards. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to, like, react to it. And I'll say two things.
Sure.
Number one, to all the leftists being thirsty about her online, is she hot? Yes. She's very, very hot. But where this is the left, there are so many cat girls on the left.
There are other cat girls, yeah.
Half of the fucking, like, self-identified communists in America right now own cat ears. That is a fact. You can find better cat girls to simp over. I promise you.
There's a lot of people out there.
Number 2 is solidarity for Palestine.
Sure,
we fully support the Palestinian people. And we are against apartheid states. And we are also very against the equation of Israel with the Jewish people. Those are two different things.
We here at Middlebrow Madness
I feel it's important to say still. I feel it's important to say.
I mean, yeah, it's important to say. And I suspect, because I
suspect most of our listeners are already, like, pro-Palestinian. And if they're not, if they think that it is bad that we are saying that Israel having literal different laws for people of different ethnicities is not an apartheid state, and that they're not committing war crimes, you're not paying us. What do you care? Stop listening. I don't have any responsibility to you.
Yeah, also, here, we find ourselves to be in a very weird situation where we kind of know everyone who listens to this show.
True.
Like,
or at least they're in a close enough circle.
That's right. I mean, we don't have to leave. There's no one... I don't think there's anyone who listens to the show who doesn't at least know someone who knows someone in the Discord, say.
Correct.
So,
So movies. that was a very... I apologize for doing a thing that took us 30 minutes to talk about, but I had to talk about Girlfriend.Finance, and I had to talk about the idea of Catgirl. Those are the two things that have been on my mind lately. And thank you for letting me talk about them.
Those, not to give you notes or anything, but that could have been two distinct intros.
I feel like the idea of Catgirl didn't have enough, like, meat on the bone of that sausage.
We did, 10 minutes of material on that.
A lot of that's being cut. Either way.
Despite the last half hour of material that you've heard, this is not an episode of Trash Future or QAnon Anonymous or any number of podcasts that cover this kind of shit.
Chapo Trap House.
Chapo Trap House. They come up a lot.
I had a dream where Felix Biederman sold me a gun.
Was he nice?
Yeah, he was very nice. To be fair, he's my favorite person on Chapo.
Writer of Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, directed by John Boyce.
Yeah, the very same.
So yeah, this is ostensibly a movie podcast.
Don't take that as an endorsement of Chapo or Felix. They both said very problematic things. But at least Felix is a good poster.
Do take it as an endorsement of Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. So that's a great piece
very
of work.
Very much so. John Boyce can do no wrong.
That's right. Until such time that he is inevitably canceled or something.
Of course. Have you ever, I really want to get, a Mount Erie tattoo, but I'm, really worried that Phil Alvarum is going to get canceled. I don't know why. I don't think he will, but then again, I didn't think a lot of people were going to. I don't want to be like, oh, shit. I'm going to wait until he dies, and then I'm going to get it. I
mean, have the people in Crass ever done anything shitty?
Oh, yes. I was, 17 when I got that tattoo.
That's all right. If, you've already got listen, just give her. Just go for it. I mean, you've already got the Crass tattoo. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
but let's start the podcast proper.
Despite the last half hour of material that you've heard, this is a movie podcast. This is a podcast where Isabelle and I go through the Internet Movie Database. I'm sorry.
The top 250 of the Internet Movie Database.
Just always the fucking transition between the bit at the beginning and the actual show is fucking whiplash every time.
I wonder,
Damien Chazelle's whiplash.
There was a staff member at my job who quit somewhat recently. She gave her 2 weeks and everything like that. And as she was the last night she was there, we were talking about podcasts, and I mentioned the fact that I do them, and she asked for a link to it, or she asked me to basically to put it into her phone. So I did that. I don't know if she ever listened. Totally cool if she didn't. I would actually understand that completely.
100%.
Amanda, if you are listening, I don't know how you got through the last half hour. Thank you very much for listening. Also, I hope you didn't listen to my porn podcast, but hey.
For a good time. Every other week? Question mark?
Theoretically, if I stop having the most stressful time ever at work.
Yeah.
So today we watched.
Yes, we do. It's the Internet Movie Database top 250 circa August 2018, plus 6 movies that we added to make a field of 256 movies that we feed into a single elimination bracket until we get to the best movie of all time, Asterisk. And now we've got 4 more movies to talk about because we do 2 matchups every episode. So that's 4 movies, and here are the 4 movies that we're going to be talking about. We've got Reservoir Dogs versus The Bandit, and The Great Dictator versus Mad Max Fury Road. This show will contain, I think, probably the toughest matchup since Seven Samurai versus not Yojimbo Seven God damn it. It's going to contain the toughest matchup since Yojimbo versus Seven Samurai. No, god damn it!
Seventh Seal. Do you want to do a third take?
Yes. This episode is going to contain the toughest matchup since Yojimbo versus Seventh Seal.
Agreed. I agree with that. There's two movies on here that, like, it's not just that they're both excellent, it's that they're both pretty evenly matched in very similar ways.
Yeah,
and they're doing some similar things in very different ways. It's fascinating.
It's kind of the same kismet as having Jaws and Star Wars together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I told you this before the podcast. You don't personally agree with this. I think there's one movie, there's an odd movie out when I say the following, but I think this is the first matchup we've had where every single movie is a masterpiece.
None of the movies are bad. I think there's two masterpieces among masterpieces, one very good movie and one movie that, though I think is just okay, is very much worth seeing. I can't believe I'm going to be the one who's going to be like, Anyway, let's get to our first matchup. A Tale of the Tape to kick us off. The 76 seed Reservoir Dogs, released in 1992, written and directed by a young up-and-comer called Quentin Tarantino. Maybe you've heard of him. Starring Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Chris Penn, Steve Buscemi. Varying figures on the budget. I've got anywhere between $1.2 million to $3 million. Made $3 million at the domestic box office, and was kind of like an indie sensation, and going 1 for 3 at the Independent Spirit Awards, with Steve Buscemi winning Best Supporting Actor. Versus The Bandit, aka Iskia, which is... my Turkish is not great, so apologies for the pronunciations throughout the rest of the show. Which is the 181st seed. This is one of those movies I had no idea existed before embarking upon this project.
100% same.
Released in 1996, written and directed by Yavuz Turgul, starring Sener Sen, Ugur Yücel, Sermin Sen, and Yasin Salkim. Again, my Turkish is not great. I don't have much in the way for stats as far as this movie is concerned, but it was Turkey's submission to the Oscars that year. It was not shortlisted, and it won 4 Turkish Film Critics Awards, including Best Picture, and by all accounts, rejuvenated the Turkish film industry in the mid-1990s.
It's an awful lot for Smokey and the Bandit.
No smoking. This is a Bandit solo project.
I was going to make that joke at some point. Figure might as well just get out of the way, so we don't have to think about it for the rest of the time.
I think we should talk about the Bandit first.
Okay, sure.
Because this was one of like the weird ones that, coming into this project, I had never heard of, and so spoiler alert, I liked this fine as kind of like kind of like an action movie programmer. It kind of. It's a gangster story. It's like it's kind of a one last job story, but it has this kind of like deep melancholy and romantic undercurrent that I didn't really glom onto, because I think I was not seeing the forest for the trees in terms of like, oh, this is like kind of like a stock. This is just kind of like a run-of-the-mill gangster picture. It's like, it's hitting all the beats. It's doing everything it's supposed to. And whatever. But this is something that you glommed onto a lot.
Yes. Like, this is a masterpiece. There's no other way to say it. This is a masterpiece. I fucking adore it. I want to hear more, like, about how you kind of vibed with it and all that kind of stuff, and like what stood out to you. I like wrote down so many notes, and there's so many things I have to talk about with it. I could talk for like 2 hours. I'm not going to. I'm going to try to stick to the most obvious ones. But the first thing I want to throw out to you, to see, get your response, is I think this is basically, not in the editing, but in like the story and the theming, this is Turkish The Limey.
Yeah.
Which
I was like,
in my mind, is an incredible film by Steven Soderbergh.
Great movie.
My favorite of his, and one of my favorite movies edited ever, and one of my favorite movies. It's absolutely astounding. And I think this is just as good.
Oh, interesting, because the movie that I had in the back of my mind was Mean Streets.
Never seen Mean Streets, so unfortunately. Good
movie. It's like the first like great Martin Scorsese movie. And there's a little bit of like
places.
there's there's a little Scorsese all over this. Not just because there's a shot in this film that's basically like a diet version of the Copacabana shot in Goodfellas,
which I loved. It was so much fun.
It's the thing with this movie is that it looks really fucking good. Yavuz Turkel is no fucking slouch. This movie looks really, really good. Helping this is the
looks
fact
like a
that
70s film.
It's kind of grimy. It has that kind of vibe. Helping this is the fact that Istanbul is a very photogenic city, and it looks fucking amazing. But the director has the good sense to he does this thing a lot where he frames his characters against these like incredible just vistas. He makes his characters look really, really, really tiny, and the scene unfolds, but they're like in like just a small portion of the shot. And normally you would just have like a 2-shot and have them in medium shot, but for a lot of the times where people are engaging with each other, they are tiny characters in this sort of larger tableau, which I think is a really, really interesting visual motif in the film.
Thematic motif too. Yes,
a theme of isolation, if you will, or of loneliness, as one might say. So I think this movie looks really good. It looks like it didn't cost a ton of money. It's appropriately grimy. I think it works fine. I think it's like just kind of a nuts and bolts gangster movie. And I think the sort of more existential, more fatalistic, romantic, part of it, I don't think it gelled as well as I would have wanted it to with like the sort of 70s New Hollywood gangster shit. But I think that's definitely more of a me thing than it is a you thing.
100%. Before we go any further, I do want to say the quick plot of this, because I realize most people will not have seen this. So
yes, of course.
After like getting out of jail, he was in jail for like 35 years. Our main character, Baran, or the Bandit, is released from prison, and he returns originally home to his home village, and like the village is underwater, like the whole world has changed, and he finds out that his girl he loved has moved to Istanbul with the man who essentially sold him out. That's Burfo.
Rat.
Yes. And so he goes to Istanbul, doesn't really know what he's doing. He meets a guy named Kumali, who is a young criminal trying to be like part of a gang, like a gangster. And after helping him, after Baran helps Kumali kind of almost takes him under his wing and helps him like find a place to stay, helps him find jobs to work at, all that kind of stuff. And we find out that his love, KJ, ended up marrying Burfo, essentially because Burfo betrayed Baran. But she hasn't spoken since that happened. Has literally said no words to anybody.
Like a vow of silence.
Yes. And of course, when she sees Baran again, she speaks for the first time. And they want to run away together. Kumali also wants to run away with a woman who he is attracted to and who seems to have a relationship with. I don't want to say anything else besides that, because there's some things that happen. And eventually things come to a head. There's a conflict between our two main characters, between the mafia, between Burfo, Keje. A lot of things happen all at once. And I don't want to say what those are, because I think that I thought they were really interesting. The way that they kind of play out, I think the plotting is actually pretty cool. And I feel like not knowing that actually adds to some of the emotional like punches it makes later. To me, this is a very emotional movie. Like both me and Julie were like almost sobbing by the end of it. Like kept crying for like another like 20-ish minutes.
I think this might be the thing. It's like I knew what the film was trying to do, but for some reason I couldn't get quite on board with how they were trying to mesh the more romantic side with the more sort of, the mafia is dangerous or whatever. And I think that might just be because my heart is like black and withered, I guess.
I mean, I
don't think that's true, but it's the only conclusion that I can draw.
I think it's just a lot of themes I'm already interested in, so naturally I'm going to pick up on them a little bit more. Maybe it's partially just like, place and circumstance that for some reason this morning I was more open to it than maybe I would have been at a different time. I was honestly like not looking forward to watching this just because I was like, a 2-hour crime movie. Like I've seen a lot of those. I'm not really into too many of them. And I didn't know like what special thing it would have. And I think that at first I was like, there's some really amazing moments in this, but I don't really like the character of Kumali. I don't really like this kind of like mob stuff that's going on. Or like, it was like, it's not that I didn't like it. I was like, this is kind of like standard. And I think that is kind of what it's trying to do. And you're not even necessarily supposed to like Kumali at first, is because he's a dumb young guy. He is making lots of mistakes. He doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. He's chasing after things that the elder, Baran, knows he shouldn't be chasing after. But at the same time, like, it's not really his place to just tell him that. Like, he's not his dad. And he's also a criminal, so it's hard for him to really like be like, hey, you shouldn't do criminal things, when he literally like murdered people in prison and outside of prison. So I think that makes it, because we have this previous version of Kumali, when Kumali really becomes an emotionally interesting character and a character you can feel invested in, or at least I felt invested in towards the second half of the movie, it hits so much harder because I already knew what he's trying to portray to the world. And now it's like me learning who he actually is and learning more of like what is underneath the surface there, which is a young man who deserves better than he has and has had some fucked up things happen in his past that maybe has influenced the way he acts, but is still trying to do the good he can. He's trying to act in a way that he can, but just like the world will not let him. And the reason I tied this to the Limey, and the reason I also would tie this to the song Straight Time by Bruce Springsteen, which is one of my favorite Bruce Springsteen songs. It's essentially both, like all three of these things are about how, yes, you got out of prison, but you didn't get out of prison. Right. You never leave it. And like everywhere's a prison, man. But like for real, like, I think that is shown very directly in like how he acts, how he interacts with things, but also filmically, like the fact that just shots, there's so many shots through bars. There's so many like both like physical bars and also like lighting. There's like bars of shadow, bars of light. There's a sequence where Baran kills someone, and it's set in this hallway that is lit gorgeously. You see like the god rays coming in the windows. And they're bars. They're bars holding both of these people and makes it so they just can't. Slats of light. It's great. Yeah, they like can't move beyond this place that they're in. They don't have freedom. And like one of the last things that Baran says is, I won't stand being locked up anymore. And he's not saying that like just as a like, I don't want to go to prison. It's like no, I've been locked up since I left prison. I've been locked up my entire life. I can't stand that. And my actions here forward are going to reflect that. That is kind of the most affecting part of it, is that it's a bunch of people trying to learn how to be free and only very rarely succeeding and only haltingly, but in a way that I found very beautiful. There's a part, well, first of all, for people who don't know the song Straight Time, the verse I'm specifically thinking of, it's about an ex-con who comes home to his wife and kids. And my favorite verse in it is kitchen floor in the evening, tossing my little babies high. Mary's smiling, but she's watching me out of the corner of her eye. Seems you can't get any more than half free. Which is fucking great writing, first of all. Great job, Bruce Springsteen. And also, like I think that like that line, seems you can't get any more than half free, is kind of the entire point of this film. It's this way in which everyone is trapped. Everyone in this movie is trapped by something. Even if they're not physically in prison, they aren't free. They are trapped by society. They're trapped by the city they're in. They're trapped by the people they've known, the relationships they've had. And there's this through line in the film that Istanbul is like a maze. You will get lost. Yes. And in many ways, Istanbul is like, I mean, there's two really wonderful things I think it does. Number one is the way that there's a final sequence that essentially uses the rooftops of Istanbul to parallel the fact that Baran earlier in his life hid away from the cops in the mountains. I thought that was like a brilliant parallel that it was delivering there. And also the way that he loses his safety in the city. I will say that. The city causes him to lose the thing that was keeping him safe. There's constantly this talk of getting lost, and the fact that people are lost. They're constantly being lost. They don't know where they're going, what they're doing. they, like, when Baran first gets to the city, he's like, I don't fucking know where I'm going to find this guy that I'm looking for. I have no idea. I'm just going to look around the entire city till I find him. I think it's a really beautiful film, and I have so much more to say in it. Like, I don't want to take forever on this because we've already taken a lot of other time. But I will say that, like, one of the parts that really got me, and that I think is, like, indicative of the way this film isn't what you think it is when it starts out, is that there's a character who dies, and another character says to them, or Baran, I can say Baran says to them, he says, don't be afraid. You will just go to soil, then you will become soil. Then you will walk to the body of a flower with waters. From there, you will reach the essence. A bee will get to the essence of the flower. Maybe that bee will be me. Which is... I'm getting chills reading that. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. The way in which, like, death is constantly happening around them, but life is also constantly happening around them. There's kids around them all the time. There's, like, new things happening. And this idea of, like, you were going to go back to the soil, but that part of you is going to be forever. And that part of you maybe we'll meet some other time. Me as the bee and you as the flower. I don't know if that connects with you at all, but...
I mean, in the abstract, yes, but clearly not to the point where it did with you. What do you think of the ending, like the last sequence, without spoiling anything?
Oh, fucking bawling my ass out, dude. Like, holy shit. Amazing. Like, it's a perfect end. Perfect end.
I think, I like I said on my Letterboxd review, I think I admired it more than I actually liked it.
I think that's fair.
Not that I disliked it. It was like, alright, okay. That's one way to do it.
See, for me, it was like the emotional reaction came first, and a lot of my appreciation for, like, the filmmaking itself, which is quite excellent, I think, kind of came after that, like, as I already had this emotional connection to it. But yeah, I would...
like, flipped.
I would very much recommend people watch this. I think you would even agree, even if, like...
I would too. Do check it out.
Yes.
Do check it out. Check out The Bandit.
There's another movie that you might have already checked out.
You might have. Certainly, if you're me, you have checked it out, and a few times since you've seen it for the first time. It's a little movie called Reservoir Dogs.
A movie I've probably watched over 20 times.
Yeah, I don't know, like... This is one of those movies where I feel foolish talking about it. It's like, we're going to have to talk about, like, Quentin. We're going to have to talk about, like...
He's got quite a few movies in this list, so we'll have plenty of chances.
Yeah, I mean, have we done... Kill Bill, we've already done.
Yes.
This is this. Pulp Fiction's in here somewhere.
Django Unchained is on here. Inglourious Basterds is on here. Yeah.
Here's the thing with Quentin, and this is something that can be said with about, like, people like PTA and I guess even like Christopher Nolan, is like a lot of these like film bro favorites are actually good directors.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think that there's a rush, and it's a rush that I'm also involved in, to decry things that are popular and to praise things that no one's heard of. And I'm not saying
I meant to praising things no one's heard of.
Yeah, certainly. And, like, I have no issues with, like, Piero Scaruffi on his knowledge database being like, the most overrated band of all time is the Beatles. Like, go, Piero Scaruffi. I fucking love that man. I love that website. There will never be anything like it. I don't know how that man does what he does. Like, he is theoretically a scientist, and he also reads seemingly, like, multiple books a week and listens to, like, 1,000 albums a year.
Just every record,
and watches every film that came out that year, and just catalogs all of this on his knowledge database. And
I gotta shout out my version of that guy that I grew up reading. A guy named I believe his name is George Strarosin, who is a Russian a Russian music critic, whose website was called Only Solitaire, which is a Jethro Tull reference, so you know about the level that you're working on. And I don't know if he's any good, but he certainly was fucking prolific. I mean, certainly kind of instrumental in my development as, like, a guy who liked music.
I mean, I totally feel the same way, where I'm like, I don't think that Piero Scaruffi is great at writing music criticism, but I do think that, like, he is where I found out about, like, Royal Trucks, and I wouldn't have ever listened to Black Ark by Carl Crack without him recommending it being in, like, one of his greatest rock albums of all time things. He, like, made me listen to Vampire Rodents. He made me listen to Spring Heeled Jack. Like, there's so many albums I only listened to because they were, like, on his, like, top albums list. And I was like, this guy seems to have weird taste. He likes, his favorite album of all time is Trop Mask Replica. I also adore Trop Mask Replica. What other weird shit you got for me? And, I mean, a lot of my, like, if you look at my, like, current, what are my favorite albums of all time? A lot of them are just picks from Piero Scaruffi's list, because I was like, holy shit, like, Twin Infinitives is one of the best albums ever. This is a mess. I love it. Or Black Ark is one of the best albums ever. This is a mess. I love it, which seems to be his MO. Big ups to guys with very unique tastes and prolific output.
Yeah, does his website suck royal ass too? Is it just like
it's still like
Web 1.0 shit?
100%, and I don't ever want to change.
Yeah. George Strarosin was basically my introduction to Jethro Tull and 10cc. Nothing like mega obscure, but I would not have like started listening to 10cc without reading about 10cc on that dude's website. So big ups.
On a slightly similar note, like British prog rock, I wouldn't have gotten into without Scarufi. Like he was really into like Gong and Soft Machine and stuff like that.
Yeah, like all the Canterbury bands and shit.
Exactly. Yeah, he like adores the Canterbury scene, which I don't adore it, but I quite enjoy Soft Machine and Henry Cow and Gong. So, and Robert Wyatt's solo career.
I tried listening to the Robert Wyatt solo albums. They're interesting. Yes,
I agree.
I mean, shout out to Robert Wyatt, though. I mean, fuck.
What a career.
Ah, man. So what the hell? Oh, yeah, Reservoir Dogs.
Yes.
So the plot of Reservoir Dogs is... No, it's like, it's a heist gone wrong.
Yes.
That's basically it. There's not a whole lot more to it. And it's Quentin Tarantino's sort of grand arrival. It's his big declaration. Here the fuck I am. Because the first fucking voice you hear in this movie is Quentin Tarantino.
Talking about Madonna.
Talking about Madonna, famously. And I have to respect the sheer, unmitigated gall, the balls on this guy to be like, I'm going to write the script like this. I'm going to be the first person to talk. And I'm going to cast myself alongside Harvey Keitel and Tim Roth.
Oh, God.
I'm going to put myself in... I'm going to make myself the equal to these guys, even though, quite famously, listen, I have a membership to the Film Bro film store. I love Quentin Tarantino. But if there's one person who constantly gets in the way of Quentin Tarantino, it's Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. We will address other shit when we talk about other
You're a really
movies.
big fan of Destiny Turns on the Radio, though.
I don't... What?
Destiny Turns on the Radio? This is literally the only thing I know about it is that I use it as a joke reference for Quentin Tarantino. He plays Johnny Destiny. And I believe he also has an uncredited co-writing thing on it. It's supposed to be terrible. I'm never going to watch it, but it's definitely a thing. But I will say that you can never accuse Quentin Tarantino of not being confident.
Oh, if I had that level of just confidence in my bullshit, I would be unstoppable.
Which definitely sometimes is great. Like you don't come out with a movie like Reservoir Dogs when you aren't confident.
Yeah, Quentin is so guileless. But it's like, it's the conversation that I keep hearing about Quentin Tarantino is like, oh, he's just some asshole who watches a ton of movies and does things he thinks is cool. It's like,
that's Doug Walker.
Yeah. That's, but also like, where do you think your favorite filmmakers get their ideas? What do you think they make?
I think that whole thing of like, he takes his ideas from other places, or he just like references their movies and like watches their movies. Like that is basically every filmmaker. There are very few filmmakers who don't like movies, and I've seen this done poorly. Like I said, it's like Doug Walker. It's a nostalgia critic shit like that. You can be that person. Let's
beat up on Doug Walker.
Oh,
please.
He's gotten beat up so much. I feel like at this point, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to add to that kicking?
Did you see fucking Dan Olsen's video about his
it was so good.
Wall thing?
It was so fucking good.
Shout out to Dan Olsen, for real though.
My second favorite Canadian, Derek.
Do I dare ask who is your first?
It's you. It was supposed to be a nice thing to you, dickhead.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Oh God. Now it's Neil Young because you were a bitch about it.
So what am I third now behind Dan Olsen and Neil Young? That's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't say no to that.
I'm put you behind Drake too. I don't even like Drake very much, but I couldn't think of anyone really quickly. So
it's like Neil Young, Dan Olsen, Drake, Wayne Gretzky, the guy who plays bass for Sloan, Leonard Cohen, Grimes, me. I'm ninth.
Let's bump Leonard Cohen up a couple notches there. But
all right, cool.
But no, like there's bad ways to do this reference thing. There's bad ways to do this. I'm a big movie fan. There's bad ways to be a video guy. it takes talent to still make a movie like this. Like, I don't care how many other movies you've seen. Being able to make this movie is difficult, whether you like it or not. Like, this is not just someone shitting stuff out. And as much as I almost feel bad for the fact that I like every single Quentin Tarantino movie, because it feels so cliche. It feels like, oh my God, I'm that person who likes every single Quentin Tarantino movie. What a fucking dumb ass motherfucker.
Like, the worst Quentin Tarantino movie is Django Unchained, right?
Yes, I agree with that.
And that movie rules. I mean,
I wouldn't say it rules. I'd still give it like 3.5 stars, I'd say.
I give it a 4.
It's still a good movie. Still wouldn't mind throwing it on.
Movie.
And it's got a lot of like fun stuff in it. It has a really good example of Quentin Tarantino stepping on his own dick, but fucking Reservoir Dogs, like, this movie cooks. Like, I've seen this movie so many times. I watched it all the time when I was in high school. It was like one of the first movies where I was like, oh, movies are a thing, which is also a super cliche thing.
Yeah, I saw Pulp Fiction first, but this was like, fuck, this dude is the real deal.
Yeah, I watched those on repeat like so many times, because it's not just that it's entertaining, which it is incredibly entertaining. Like, his dialogue is still crackles. It still is like kind of perfect dialogue. Sorry, people, like, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, even that opening thing about like Madonna, which should be cliche by now, should be kind of cringe. I still think it works. It also lays out the character of the people talking. It's not just,
it's pretty funny.
I want to talk about this thing I had a thought about. It's like hey, here's this way this character acts. Here's how they would react to this conversation. Here's how this character thinks about tipping. And maybe that has implications on how they would act on certain situations. It's not just for bullshit. It is good writing in that it's actually telling like us about our characters. It is building something while also being funny.
It's not that they are talking about Madonna and tipping. It's how they are talking about Madonna and tipping.
Exactly. And of course, you get the immortal dialogue exchange, which is, you kill anybody? A few cops. No real people, just cops. Yeah.
It's so fucking good. It's like Harvey Keitel, fucking excellent. Tim Roth, just fucking amazing. Like
Michael Madsen, basically the role that defined him for the rest of his career.
Yeah, the role he is still playing right now.
Yes.
Mostly in Quentin Tarantino films. Steve Buscemi, great. Chris Penn, really good. So yeah, it's a heist that goes wrong. There's like
Stephen Wright.
There's like Stephen Wright as the DJ.
What a great choice!
Awesome, good music. Here's the thing: this movie spawned a million imitators. We just referenced this, and the thing that a lot of those other movies, like like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead or whatever.
Fuck.
Yeah,
thanks for reminding me of that.
It's like those movies are dumb.
Yes.
They're poorly written and they're poorly put together. It's like they took all the wrong lessons from Reservoir Dogs. Is there anything in any of those post Reservoir Dogs, post Pulp Fiction movies that's half as tender as Keitel combing Tim Roth's hair when he's fucking bleeding? Like right at the top of this movie? No.
Yeah, and that's like how it starts in a lot of like that's like one of the first big emotional beat you get in a lot of ways, and it's like,
yeah, that's the second scene.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, it's so tender. It's like, it's really beautiful and like touching, and clearly like not played for a joke or anything like that. Like, this is a serious thing. These are two men who care about each other, who are in a situation where like there's bad shit happening, and they don't know if they're going to live. One of them's probably not going to live, and one of them's trying to comfort the other one, and it just works.
It's a great piece of filmmaking. I mean, I think it's a lot, if we're going to compare it to The Bandit, I think it's a lot showier. The Bandit is a lot more downbeat and it's got a lot more of a slow burn, and Reservoir Dogs is more like, hey, how you doing? Bang, bang. How you like that? Here I am, motherfuckers. This is it. And it's like, it's nonstop.
Should we explain the plot of Reservoir Dogs real quick for people who haven't seen it?
I already said it. It's a heist that goes wrong.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh yeah, and there's an undercover cop.
Yes.
Played by Tim Roth.
Yes.
That's like the sort of thing.
I think that's a fair thing to bring up no matter what.
Yeah. This is one of those movies where I feel like a complete dunce trying to talk about it.
I mean, like, the problem is that so much of this film has been encoded into just like cliche. Like, you cannot hear the Steelers Wheel song without thinking of Reservoir Dogs. It is that song now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I associate it with is my old podcast with Juan. But yeah, generally, if I hear Stuck in the Middle with You, I'm thinking of the scene in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. And it's because it's a fucking great scene. The way the camera moves, the way that like, I love the fact that it just goes behind him and like, you don't see the ear getting cut off, but you see it after it's cut off, and it's just in it, like, he's just dangling it, and you see the fucking hole on the side of the guy's head. And
yeah, it's gross as hell.
It's gross as hell. But it works. It's not just like trying to like do the thing. It's also expressing how dangerous Michael Madsen is. Fuck. I mean, like you said, like it's hard to think of anything new to come with here. But that sequence where Tim Roth is practicing the cover story he has, and you see the cover story play out as he's telling it to them and as he's practicing.
That's a really good scene.
It is such a good use of cross-cutting and like these 3 different versions of this exact same event. 2 different fictionalized versions and 1 version that's real, all being played together and playing against each other, and you seeing how things evolve through that.
And that's like a great location too, just the graffitied the fuck out. Just, I don't know if that's like a stage or just like an abandoned building with like a porch or something, but that's a great location.
Yeah. What a thing. Again, like that's the kind of thing like if you just want to dismiss Tarantino, I don't think you can dismiss something like that. You can say you don't like it. That's totally fair. There's plenty of good reasons not to like Tarantino, I think.
Sure.
But in terms of just saying like, oh, he's not really a good filmmaker. He doesn't really know what he's doing is like maybe the critique level. Or like,
no. The proof, as they say, is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Or in the enlarging pool of blood around Tim Roth.
So now we come to the decision. It's pretty clear where you're going to land. Do you want to explicate it for the people, though?
I think it's Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
But I'm really interested to see if you're going to go consensus or if you're going to go heart and like fucking twist my arm.
It's the Bandit. Like not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close. Two reasons. Number 1 is I think Reservoir Dogs is fucking excellent. 4.5-star movie. I think Bandit is 5-star movie. I can't wait to watch it again. I think it is bringing something entirely new that the rest of the list doesn't have to hear as well. Something entirely new to like my life. I had never seen this movie before. It emotionally devastated me. Like I found it so powerful and moving, and I think the filmmaking is wonderful. There's not a single thing I think is wrong with the Bandit. And I think there's more to talk about it with as well.
I mean, you maybe, but we've already exhausted what we were going to say about fucking Reservoir Dogs. This is one of the rare instances where you have liked both movies more than me.
Wow, interesting.
Because
stop being such a hater, Derek.
Hater. I mean, Reservoir Dogs is a 4 for me. And
is your name Bill? Because you're being a real hater right now.
Oh boy! You can't see me, but I'm tugging my collar on my t-shirt that doesn't have a collar. All right, so I'm going to go to the big board, and I'm going to see what's going on. Okay. I don't remember if Kill Bill made it through to round. No, it got.
Okay, but there's so many other Tarantino movies on here. One of them's gonna move forward.
Well, okay, yeah, all right. So Eternal Sunshine beat Kill Bill.
Inglourious Basterds going against The Sixth Sense. That's actually kind of tough.
Yeah, that could be an interesting matchup. Pulp Fiction is going up against
Tangerines, which I have no idea what that is.
Not Tangerine, not the Sean Baker film.
Yes, but Tangerines.
But Tangerines, which I'm not familiar with.
It's the song by Regina Spektor.
I was gonna say it's a song by the Canadian group Moist, but I believe that's just Tangerine. Yeah, it's a.
Oh, I'm sorry. The song is called "That Time" by Regina Spektor. I apologize to all the fellow Spektor heads.
Spektor heads,
not Spektor heads. Parentheses minus Phil.
That's right. Tangerines is an Estonian-Georgian film. It was nominated for best. This is an 87-minute.
I like that runtime. It's a good runtime. Django Unchained is going against Ben-Hur. Interesting.
Very
Never
interesting.
seen Ben-Hur, so.
No, neither have I, actually.
I've only seen Ben-Him.
Is that one of those movies that you talk about with JB on For a Good Time?
I like that quite a bit. Thank you, Derek.
Tangerines is like a war. It's like a war drama.
There's quite a few of those on the list too.
Yeah, people love fucking war movies. So okay, I'm pretty.
What's Pulp Fiction going up against?
Tangerines. It's going up against this Estonian war drama.
Oh yes, yeah, I forgot. Yes.
And So this list came out in 2018, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, not on this list.
I don't think it'd be on the current one either. People didn't really love it.
I thought people liked it pretty generally. Okay, so so you're right. I don't want what happened to David Fincher to happen to Quentin Tarantino. As much as I love David Fincher...
7.6. That's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, currently. 7.6 out of 10.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I guess people are just kind of put off by, like, the runtime. And the kind of...
the fact that, like... And, like, there's not much happens in it, and it's very lazy for most of the film.
It's very...
Which is what I like.
It's very diffuse. It's a great hangout movie, but...
Yeah. You get to see some real good shots of...
Los Angeles?
No. The human being. Brad is called...
Brad Pitt?
Thank you.
It was like, was it Leo, Margot Robbie, fucking...
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty photogenic trio, but all that to say, okay. In the interest of the podcast, whatever goes up, whatever wins here will probably get beat by whatever wins next in our next match that we're going to be talking about. So I'm not going to feel too bad saying goodbye to Reservoir Dogs because of the Quentin movies in the list, it's probably my second to least favorite.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's probably going to be... And Hateful Eight is not on this list either, right?
No.
So it's probably...
So we got Pulp, Inglourious Bastards, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill Volume 1, and Django. So
for me, it's probably Pulp, Bastards, Kill Bill, Reservoir, Django. So I don't feel too bad about letting Reservoir Dogs go, assuming one of those other movies gets through.
Okay, fair.
So congratulations to Dark Horse entry The Bandit on upsetting the favorite Reservoir Dogs. Moving on to round number 2. And in round number 2, they will face the winner of this fucking ridiculous matchup that we got here.
God, this is like you said. This is maybe the hardest one we've done so far.
I think
the only close one is Yojimbo, and yeah, I agree.
So our second matchup, the tail of the tape, the 53 seed, The Great Dictator, released in 1940, written and directed by Charlie Chaplin, starring Charlie Chaplin, Paulette Goddard, Jack Oakey, Henry Daniel, and Reginald Gardner, cost $2 million in 1940s bucks, which is like $40 million in our time, and made 3.5 at the domestic box office, nominated for 5 Academy Awards, and getting 0 wins. That's right, one of the greatest movies of all time, a big old goose egg at the Academy Awards, versus the 204 seed Mad Max: Fury Road, released in, I didn't write down the year, 2015, right?
2015, yes, correct.
Okay. Directed by George Miller, written by George Miller, Brendan McCarthy, and Nico Latouris, starring Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, and Nicholas Hoult. I have varying figures for budget, going from $155 to $185 million. Made $375.4 million at the domestic box office. A bona fide sensation, a smash hit. It went 6 for 10 at the Academy Awards, winning mostly technical awards, but netting nominations for Best Director and Best Picture, and widely considered to be one of the great movies of the 2010s.
Yes.
This is unfair for a first round matchup.
Yes, these are both movies I want to have in the second round. Like, not even close.
If we were to build out a movie Hall of Fame, this is something that I like doing just for fun, because I'm a fucking dork. Charlie Chaplin, no doubt, would be one of the charter members in this Hall of Fame.
Yes, like, maybe an initial class, too.
Yeah, you could go, if we're doing something a little wider and we're going with, builders, and we're including, below-the-line people, and we're including a bunch of... Even still, your charter list looks like something like the Lumiere brothers, Alice Guy, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Alfred Hitchcock, Orson Welles. That's a pretty good, starting, 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally add Godard in there just because he's been so influential, and that would get your little art house thing in there. But yeah, I
haven't even gotten that far in. When we're doing our initial class, we gotta keep it to the first 50 years of cinema or something, because otherwise it's when are we going to put in Manny Lubetsky and Edith Head and fucking Gordon Willis or whatever?
Okay, fair.
But But I think it's not controversial to say Charlie Chaplin is a charter member of this as as like a triple threat, and we'll add 4 as like a stunt person.
Yes, agreed.
And you could argue, like, the Hall of Fame case for George Miller is a little shakier, just because, well, who can rival Chaplin? But you could make the argument that George Miller has made 2 of the greatest action movies of 2 different decades, 4 decades apart. He made The Road Warrior, and he made Mad Max Fury Road. He has an Oscar for Happy Feet.
He made Babe Pig in the City, which also fucking owns.
He made Babe. He made Babe Pig in the City. You could conceivably put him on like the Mount Rushmore of directors from Australia and New Zealand, because that's what.
Oh, easy.
That's like Peter Weir, Jane Campion, George Miller, and
whoever directed Rawhead Rex.
I was gonna say maybe like, is Baz Luhrmann Australian? Let's put Baz Luhrmann in there.
Oh yeah. Fuck, I love Baz Luhrmann. So I know you're not as high on him, but yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen most of the corpus, to be fair, but like I think if your top 3 is Weir, Miller, Campion, that's pretty good. That's good company to be in. I don't think he was ever the best director in the world, but there was several times where he's the best director in Australia. And he's proven that he's had dynamic range, because he has the Mad Max movies. He's done Babe. He's done Happy Feet, that's what he got his Oscar for. He's an Oscar winner.
Witches of Eastwick?
I was about to say Witches of Breastwick, and that's entirely...
That's a Jim Wynorski film.
That's your fault entirely. Witches of Eastwick, Lorenzo's Oil. The man has, like, range, but you could make a case that, maybe not Initial Class, but sometime down the line you put in George Miller.
Yeah, I could see that.
And both of these movies are going to be I don't know about Chaplin, because Chaplin died in the 70s, and I haven't seen, like, the obits. But you could argue that both of these movies in this matchup are, like, the quintessential movies by these people.
They're the first one you talk about.
And both involving iconic characters that both these creators had a hand in creating. The Great Dictator is, like, the last hurrah for the Tramp character. And Mad Max Fury Road features a kind of rebirth of Max Rockatansky, post Mel Gibson.
Yes.
They are both movies
less anti-Semitic.
A lot less anti-Semitic. They are both movies about fascism.
Yes. And about a man being an unlikely political actor in the destruction of fascism. Yeah,
there are people who would rather not get involved, but kind of get involved in spite of themselves, and help a cause greater than themselves. They are both movies with really good
physicality.
Great physicality, thanks. Because I didn't want to say stunts, because there's a lot of good physical stuff in The Great Dictator, but I don't think I would count a lot of it as a lot of them are mostly gags. But there's a lot of great physical.
It's his least stunty film.
That's right. But there's a lot of good physical acting in both of these. Yes. They are of a pair in such a way that it is even more absurd that they happen to meet each other in round 1.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and by the way, they're both fucking masterpieces.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So let's talk about the Great Dictator in greater detail first.
Greater Detail, gotcha.
The Greater Detail, which is a Jack Nicholson movie.
I believe you.
That's a reference to The Last Detail, which is an actual Jack Nicholson movie.
Okay, all I know about the movie is it looks hella gay, but apparently it's not.
It's not, but Randy Quaid is really good in it.
Okay, thanks for the counter offer there, Derek. I don't get the homosexuality, but I do get Randy Quaid.
I mean, you
take what you can get.
You take what you can get. So
Randy Quaid pride flag.
That's so fucking funny. Oh my god, that's so absurd. Especially now that he's that he's a little wackadoo, right?
Yeah, he's a conspiracy theorist. Is he still friends with Tom Arnold? Because I know Tom Arnold's a big conspiracy guy now.
Yeah, he was on that one episode of QAnon Anonymous, right?
Yes, where he said some wild ass shit.
So I was gonna say The Last Dictator, The Great Dictator, then. So this is a movie about the rise of fascism in Germany. This is a movie that, famously or infamously, Chaplin had some slight regrets of doing once he found out what the extent of the atrocities in Nazi Germany actually were.
Which is interesting that I want to bring up later.
Which, fair, but I...
Here's... I disagree with Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
For two big reasons. Number one is that I think that this is actually remarkably perceptive, and it seemed to have predicted things we didn't know yet.
Yeah, this movie is 80 years old, and has not lost an ounce of relevance or importance.
Yeah, and even so when this was made, a lot of the details of exactly what the Nazi regime was like were not known. I mean, they were known more than a lot of people will say. A lot of people will say that the concentration camps weren't known as much as they were in Germany. That's a whole different issue. Short version is check your sources. A lot of people knew about them, and a lot more than are willing to let on. There's actually a really good book about that with interviews of former people who worked in and around concentration camps, but pretend that they don't know anything about
Yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who said they were basically just gulags, but they weren't.
Yes. But even without having the full knowledge that he would have later, I think this is a film that takes seriously what it needs to take serious. Mm-hmm. I don't think it ever portrays, hey, Jewish people being lynched, isn't that funny? When those scenes happen, it is very direct. Whoa, we are changing drastically in tone very quickly.
Whiplash.
Yeah, which I think is one of the cool things of the movie. One of the things I think works extremely well. I think that tone is difficult, but it actually, I thought it consistently worked how it's supposed to work.
This is something that Chaplin gets better with. He gets better at this with time.
Yes.
You can see the progression from the shorts to the longer stuff to the late stuff, where that juggling of tone, where he can mix the sweet and sour a bit more effectively. This is a really good example of him doing it well. Especially
it would get even better in Monsieur Verdoux.
Exactly.
Which, highly recommended. Not a lot of people have seen that as much as the other ones that are classic. Holy shit, that's one of the best anti-capitalist movies ever made. Fucking love it. But in terms of whether it's some knowing more of the extent, maybe he would take it more seriously, or he wouldn't have done the movie or something like that. I think the reason that I wouldn't say that is because like I said, it is respectful of things that are actually serious. It doesn't mock the things that shouldn't be mocked. Its target is clearly Nazi Germany, and to a lesser extent, fascist Italy.
That's right.
And it's not just that; it also really takes aim at a lot of people who I think would get a pass in other films. The way that it shows even things that today aren't talked about as much, the way in which Jewish people were fine with the Nazis if they were doing something that they wanted to be done. If you were useful, if you had a lot of money and we could get that from you, then, we won't persecute the Jews anymore until all of a sudden you don't want to do that. And then it's back on, which is very much something we see played out over and over and over again, but doesn't get acknowledged enough in contemporary fascist movements. And the ways in which, just the ways in which violence progresses, I feel it actually does very well with, the initial intimidation and threats evolving into full-on, pogroms and, the raiding of the ghetto is really scary and terrifying in the film in a really, really, affecting way. And more than that, I think that when you're portraying Hitler,
right,
there's a lot of different ways to do that. Or fascism in general,
what's his name? Anodyne Hinkler?
Yes.
Or Hinkle? Anodyne Hinkle.
Yes.
Which is very funny, by the way.
Yes. If you are doing that, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And the problem with a lot of serious versions of this is you'll take it very seriously and be oh, this was a terrible person, and they did all these awful things. And that's how you get American History X, for example. And you know who fucking loves American History X?
Nazis?
It's neo-Nazis, Derek. That's who loves American History X. That's not to say that, obviously, that's part of the audience, not the entire audience. I think for some people it works for the things it's actually trying to be, which is very clearly an anti-racist film. But the point is, if you lean too much into the serious thing, and you portray Nazis and neo-Nazis as, scary in that way, as competent, essentially, then you end up getting them reclaiming that almost. Even in we talked we talked a minute ago about The Wall by Pink Floyd, tendentially in relation to Doug Walker. But there's a reason that the Hammerskins took their name from that, even though that's clearly a bad thing in the movie. It's because they're portrayed as effective, as violent, as scary, and that's what you want to be. So it doesn't matter what the context is. Whereas I've never seen neo-Nazis singing
Reclaim
songs
this,
from the producers, or
Right.
neo-Nazis like who are really big fans of the Great Dictator. Like, I think those things are in many ways more effective for actually commenting and parodying in ways that can't be reclaimed later on than the more serious-minded films can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's, I mean, as anodyne as it sounds, there is something to be said about defanging something terrible through comedy as an art form, not as like sort of a lifestyle or as praxis necessarily, but definitely as a work of art.
Yeah, because I mean, like, what are you gonna do with art? Like, not to like. Here's the thing. I love art, Derek.
Art's
you
great.
know me. Art's great. Art doesn't take political action.
No.
Art can inspire political action sometimes. Art can, like, occasionally change people's minds and do, all the great things art's supposed to do. I'm not saying it doesn't do that, but I think that whenever we are critics or whenever people are making art, we should always keep that Kurt Vonnegut bit in our minds. So he said, during the Vietnam War, every respectable artist in this country was against the war. It was like a laser beam. We were all aimed in the same direction. The power of this weapon turns out to be that of a custard pie dropped from a stepladder 6 feet high.
Yep.
Yep. So we are not saying, can satire save the Republic? And then, but we are saying that, like, I think that defanging can have its uses and can be part of a total package and can be more effective in that package than the more serious takes can be sometimes.
Yeah, satire is a good utility player, but you don't want them like as your staff ace.
Yes. Oh gosh. Should we move to the next movie, or should we continue here for a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I still I don't care if it's like corny or utopian or whatever, but the last 6 minutes of this movie, A, one of the greatest 6 minutes in cinema history, B, never fails to move me. It's like, I cry every fucking time. I don't care if that makes me fucking, like, lame as hell. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, if they're not charitable, I've seen people accuse it of being didactic, which it is, but that's not always a bad thing. There are definitely good ways to be didactic. I think it is a really beautiful speech, a really beautiful ending to the film. And even if I put on my thinking cap, I'm like, I have some quibbles with the politics here. Because I'm me. And it's very it's a liberal view of the world, let's say, which as a communist, I have my issues with. But I think I think its vision of people is beautiful. Like you said, it's like the idea that what people want is to care. What people want, and they've been forced into other ways of being, forced by people who don't care about them. I will also say one thing that's big plus for me in this movie. I guess what we said in the beginning, doesn't have as many stunts, as many pratfalls and things like that, but there's still such a grace to the way Chaplin moves. Yeah. It's balletic.
The whole bit with the globe there.
Yeah, which is amazing. Like, it's funny. It's a very funny bit, but it's also like, wow, like, you are moving in a way that it looks like you shouldn't be able to do, in a way that looks like it's too easy. And you're making this whole, like when he jumps onto the desk, it's like one movement. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to crouch down, then I have to jump up. It's just like, it barely looks like it takes him any effort to jump from the floor to this desk, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
It's like old physical comedians. Like, I mean, you can say the thing about Buster Keaton, say the same thing about Harold Lloyd. They had such control over every part of their body movement. So it's like a lot of modern martial arts performers. You have this dance-like grace. It's like articulation that is so precise and so perfect that it seems inhuman sometimes.
What a great movie.
Yeah. Great Dictator. Great movie, turns out.
Turns out.
Now let's talk about a terrible movie, Derek.
Oh, wait. I mean, I don't have a terrible movie on my card. What I have here is Mad Max Fury Road.
This is my heel turn. I'm going to start saying that Fury Road is terrible.
Oh, my God.
No, even I, with my dedication to contrarianism.
There are people who are down on this movie. Believe it or not. This movie has like one of the highest Q ratings I can think of for like any movie. But there are some people who are still down on it. I don't maybe they're not into awesome stunts, or crack direction, or storytelling through texture and set design, or superlative use of speed cranking. Or...
Derek, I think you are ignoring the fact that this is an SJW movie about how women are better than men and how it's actually misandrist when you think about it. And
it's called Mad Max.
But who's
Tom
really doing
Hardy's
all
on
the
the
fighting?
fucking poster.
Women shouldn't act like Furiosa, Derek. Come on, that is that is ignoring traditional gender roles. That's not very trad wife of her.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that gender roles went out the door with the gas apocalypse, man.
I mean, hey, Immortan Joe does have like quite a few wives, and that's like how it's supposed to be. I'm playing in this bit. Apparently,
this is a character.
a Mormon anti-SJW who is still into the whole polygamy thing. That is, and probably is also a libertarian. That is the character I've created in this head, and probably also based on what I know about like the Mormon community in Salt Lake City. Also probably is a pedophile. But that's based on evidence. I'm not just saying that. That's watch the movie on Clean Flicks and all the other attempts by Mormons to like do safe for work and safe for family versions of films.
Can you imagine a fucking Clean Flicks version of Mad Max Fury Road?
It'd be like the PG version of Freddy Got Fingered that's included as a bonus on the DVD that's like 2 minutes long.
Oh my god.
It's great.
So Mad Max Fury Road is, how does one say without sounding hyperbolic?
It's perfect.
This movie is a miracle.
Yeah,
this movie,
the fact that it got made in the first place, like who was making a, when you said, hey, we're going to make a Mad Max movie in 2010s, like 20, 30 years after the last one got made, even a series that no one fucking knows anymore. Like kids don't know what Mad Max is before this.
We are going to shoot in the Namibian desert.
Yes.
Forever.
And we're going to do almost all practical stunts.
With a crew of 300 stunt people. All the cars are real. We built them. With human hands, we built these monstrosities that look awesome on screen, whether they are driving at full speed or being blown to fucking smithereens. You know when we did Raiders of the Lost Ark and I was like, this is a fucking movie? Well, fucking Mad Max Fury Road, by God, is a fucking movie.
I finally agree with you.
I would like to read a quote from a director we both like, that we referenced earlier in the show, Mr. Steven Soderbergh.
Okay.
I just watched Mad Max Fury Road again last week, and I tell you I couldn't direct 30 seconds of that. I'd put a gun in my mouth. I don't understand how George Miller does that. I really don't. And it's my job to understand it. I don't understand two things. I don't understand how they're not still shooting that film, and I don't understand how hundreds of people aren't dead.
Yeah.
That's Steven Soderbergh saying that. That dude is like the director's director, and
he's a guy who knows what he's doing. Like, he's a guy who, like, for fun, will re-edit other people's movies.
Yeah, he did the Raiders re-edit. He re-edit... no, did he do a Raiders re-edit? No, it was Heaven's Gate that he re-edited,
yes,
right?
Yes, mm-hmm. He's done quite a few. Like, I think it's just, like, his hobby.
The dude edits masterpieces for fun, okay? George Miller and his team, because this feels kind of like a group thing, where it's like... Yeah. You don't get here with just one guy deciding everything. It's not just, it's the storyboarding, it's Brendan McCarthy, who's a comics guy who got brought in. There were sort of there was a feminist consultant that was brought on for like that group of biker old ladies.
Mm-hmm.
There was, the stunt coordinator, who had a team of stunt people, a bunch of them from the Cirque du Soleil. There was the production design, that sumptuous production design.
Yes.
Which was done by the same dude who did the bus from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
I did not know that. That dude's name is Colin Gibson, no relation. And his two big credits are The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and Mad Max Fury Road. So basically, this is the story. So there is also a fascist despot in this movie. Named Immortan Joe,
who is played by, what the fuck is his name? His name is
Hugh Keys-Byrne.
Hugh Keys-Byrne. If you don't know, played Toe Cutter in the original Mad Max. So
and also a former member of the Royal Shakespearean Theatre Company.
A good actor. So comes back. Also coming back out of retirement is John Seale, the cinematographer, who makes this movie look fucking fantastic.
Incredible. Like, Desert shouldn't look this good.
Desert shouldn't look this good. So it's this despot who controls the water supply. There's this group of people who are like basically just starving for water, and he has them under their thumb. He who controls the water controls the people, especially in a post-apocalyptic desert wasteland. Mm-hmm. He's got like this army of trophy wives, one of whom is Zoe Kravitz, one of whom is Riley Keough, one of them is Rosie Huntington Whiteley. Mm-hmm. He has an imperator who I guess is kind of like a trucker or some shit. I don't know, man. This world is thick with lore.
And someone they don't explain, which is the best. Someone who works for him basically who I guess runs convoys, who is played by Charlize Theron. She smuggles them out with the intention of going to what is called the Green Place, which is, I guess, this sort of utopic place where there's still like greenery and shit. You know, a better place. Yeah. And somewhere in the fucking wasteland is Max Rockatansky, played by fucking Tom Hardy, in the mumbliest performance you ever did see. Tom Hardy is, here's the thing, he's an incredible actor who can be incredibly like subtle and like really moving and beautiful, but he seems to like just enjoy taking roles where he can be Max, he could be fucking Venom, he can just do that shit and it's great. He can be Bane, he can just go on his fucking shit. You know, and that's why Venom is a good movie, and it's why
from the director of Zombieland.
And it's why Max works here for me, is that he looks like a feral animal a lot of the time, and I mean that positively.
Tom Hardy, you know who the comp is for Tom Hardy? And I just thought of this. It's 90s Brad Pitt.
Yes.
It's one of the world's most handsome men trying to be as ugly as possible on screen. It's like, I want to hide the fact that I'm maybe one of the 5 hottest people on Earth. And it's like, he's a fantastic, like, we've seen, like, you've seen Bronson. You've seen Tom Hardy just be awesome in a movie.
Bronson's incredible.
And it's like, here he dials it barely above a 3. But it's very, very moving. Because a lot of it is nonverbal. A lot of it is connoted through action. The most expression he gives is... It's desperation. It's like a nod and a point. Because we are privy to Mad Max's sort of trauma visions, his fucking PTSD flashbacks in this movie, which are fucking terrifying with the speed ramping and the overlaying. Yeah. It's like real EC Comics horror shit. Yeah. This is a miracle of a movie because the story itself is it's a chase film. The first 30 minutes of this movie are one chase sequence. And it doesn't let up. And this was my favorite part of seeing this in the theaters, because I saw this in the theaters when it came out. So did I. After that first chase sequence, which marks the 1/4 point of the film, like 60% of this movie is a chase scene. Yes. But the first quarter is like 90% chase scene. And at the end of it, we cut to black. Everyone exhaled and started applauding. Wow. Because who the fuck does that? Who the fuck thinks to do that? Like, it's the point where the war boys are like sicked onto Charlize Theron to the point where they to the point where Max gets knocked out in the fucking Dust Devil tornado storm, whatever. Yes. That's like 20 minutes. It is the most intense 20 minutes of cinema I had seen that I had seen in a theater, probably. Which is also that storm by itself is like such a piece of world building that we never learn anything else about. It's like, okay, nope. I guess there's just giant thunder dust storms that roll across the land here. Yep. And they're also like, I remember seeing it in the theater and that being like generally like awe-inspiring. It looks fucking giant. It reminds me of when I was driving actually from Wisconsin to Washington State, and driving through Montana, there was one part where we were in the flat part of Montana,
And as we were driving, I could see the storm. Like, I could see it out in front of me. We weren't there yet. It was sunny where I was, but I could physically see the storm, and it was a long enough, flat enough distance that it was just out there. It reminded me of that same thing, and it's amazing.
If I may be super indulgent and read the last paragraph of one of my favorite reviews I've ever written for Dim the House Lights.
Yes.
I way back in the day, I wrote a review of Fury Road for Dim the House Lights, and of course, gushing review. But this is the last paragraph, and I think it cuts to a lot of the reasons why I think this movie fucking owns. Much has already been said about the seamless mix of death-defying practical stunt work and CGI accents in the film, as well as the stunning impressionistic desert photography. But another standout here is the incredible production design. The Citadel is a supervillain's lair on crank, carved into a Namibian mountainside, encrusted with dirt, sweat, and motor oil. Skull-adorned Art Deco steering wheels are treated like holy icons. War boys are more or less blessed and sent into battle with a shot of silver spray paint to the gums. Cars are welded onto other cars to make Franken-tanks. A blind man plays a flame-throwing electric guitar plugged into a fully functional wall of amplifiers in tandem with a towering rig stacked several stories high with taiko drummers. A man, his eyes bandaged due to shrapnel getting lodged in them, double wields AK-47s while proclaiming himself to be the scales of justice. This is a movie of fierce, hard-scrabble imagination and intense kineticism, a platonic blueprint for what big-budget action movies can be.
Man, I'll have to, look at that writer's writing some more. That was really good.
This movie owns.
Yeah, it's incredible. Again, not a single thing I'd change. Every single part of it, for some reason, in my head, since, the 6 years since I've seen it last, because I saw it in theaters like you did, I adored it in theaters. And then in the 6 years past, I was like, maybe that wasn't as good as I thought it was. Maybe it's more of a 4-star movie, and I was just overhyping it because everyone else was. And when you first see something, you might think higher of it than when you actually have time to reflect on it. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. This is fucking perfect. This is amazing. This is
what do you change? I have one quibble. One quibble. Maybe cool it with the speed ramping a little bit. Not entirely. Okay. Maybe just a little bit. But that's clearly just an aesthetic preference.
Yeah.
That's clearly the vision of the film. And it works in the context of the film. That's clearly just me being if I would have been George Miller, this is the one thing I would have done different. If I would have been in the editing booth with Margaret Sixel, who does a fantastic fucking job and fully deserved the Oscar she won for this, by the way.
Yes.
That's something that I would have done a little different. But that's such a minor quibble, I might as well not bring it up.
I will also say, so my prediction is this might move forward. But pause that. I don't actually want to get into that just yet, because I want to say the last thing.
It is so unfair to the Great Dictator because it's operating on such a smaller scale.
Yes, that is true. But I'll say, the other thing that I appreciated even more this time, I think, especially 6 further years in the future, where things are worse than they even were in... The 2015 things were not going great, Derek. I don't know if you know this. In the world, it turns out even before Donald Trump, things were not going great in the world. Turns out these problems have sources, and these sources are hundreds of years old at this point. And even the most direct sources are at least from the 70s and 80s. But things are even worse now. But the thing that worked so well for me this time is that they're running to the green place. That's where they're trying to get to. And they find out, spoilers, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist anymore anyway.
There is no more green place. There's no place you can run away to where you've done it. Where essentially there's no place where you can be separated from the world. The world's always coming towards you, and the world's you can't go to the place the world hasn't ended. The world's always ending. It's ending all around us. We literally are in the middle of it ending. We're in the middle of it dying. So the only way we can go is back where we came from. And we have to stay here with it. We have to do something. We can't just run, which is, I think, even I'm an anarcho-communist, blah blah blah, and all that shit. But the problem I have with a lot of other anarchists and anarcho-communists is that their goal seems to be to create a self-sustaining commune in which they can live by themselves, and then they can not participate in the society that's killing the earth. Which is wonderful for them. For everybody else,
you can't operate outside the world.
Yes.
That's the paradox.
You have to be part of the world. You can't ever be away from it. And I think that's one of the most revolutionary things about this movie is that it says you can't go to the happy place. You have to make it. You have to force it to be created.
The happy place must be made.
And it has to always be remade. There's no point where it's done. Constant revolution.
And like, chances are, like, the problem is not what you need isn't there. It's that it's being kept from you.
Yes. Do not become addicted to water.
You will grow to resent its absence. This movie is so... Also, we haven't even talked about the fucking Clockwork Orange-ass argot that this movie uses. Watching this movie with subtitles, by the way, great benefit. Because I bumped this movie up from 4.5 stars to the full 5. And part of the reason is I got the full effect of the script and I could fucking hear what Tom Hardy was saying. And I got a lot more stuff that I didn't get while just being pummeled with the visuals in the movie theater.
So, Great Dictator or Fury Road?
Oh, God, what the fuck? This is not fair. This is like, because Great Dictator is one of the greatest movies of the 20th century. Belongs in, like, most pantheons, but is operating on such a more modest and, like, human scale than Fury Road, which is Spectacle City, which is just an orgy of custom car production design fed through, like, the post-apocalyptic grinder. It's like...
That's what I need to get on. Post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalyptic. Lots of great title options for this episode. Like, and they both end with, like, these sort of... These like, sort of...
Cautiously hopeful moments.
Cautiously hopeful in the face of, like, sort of, like, oncoming desperation.
Overwhelming cruelty. I know what I'm choosing. Do you want me to say that so you can consider more?
Because I feel like it's fucking Fury Road, but I feel like that's like, I'm kind of wowed by the visuals and its recency bias. I do think, like, it's more of an achievement, but I don't know if it's a better movie. I think it might be Fury Road.
Yeah, it's Fury Road.
Okay.
Here's what I'll say. Like, I think The Great Dictator is incredible. I think it's a
wonderful
movie. It's hilarious. It's like has so many like interesting things to say. Like I already brought up. I think it was like very like insightful in what it's trying to say. It like
also for Fury Road 2 hours. You don't need any more time. 2 hours.
And
and they're packed tight.
The Great Dictator is not the best Charlie Chaplin movie.
Is it Modern Times?
Probably Modern Times. I mean, Modern Times or City Lights or Monsieur Verdoux.
The dude has a lot of bangers.
He does.
So does George Miller. But George Miller only has one movie on this list, I think.
Yeah. Whereas I think we've already moved 2 different Chaplin movies ahead.
There's a couple Chaplins that are in round 2 already. So if we're going by that, if we want to sort of metagame and like even out, like sort of spread the wealth a little bit, Mad Max Fury Road. But like this is at least a round of 32 matchup. This has no business happening in the first round. It might be a Sweet 16 matchup even.
Oh, well, I don't think I go that far,
But it's unfortunate that it happens in round 1, but someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. So we bid adieu to the GOAT, Charlie Chaplin, and the Great Dictator, and welcome the GOAT, George Miller, and Mad Max Fury Road into round 2, where he will face the Bandit. Underdog of underdogs.
Wow, my heart already hurts thinking about that.
Oh, man. Well, luckily you don't have to think about it for probably another year or so, because we've got a whole hell of a lot of bracket to get to before we get to round 2. I shall preview the next two matchups that we have coming up. On our next episode, we will be looking at Some Like It Hot versus On the Waterfront. A little 50s on 50s action, I think. I think I got the years correct on that. And Forrest Gump versus Paris, Texas. And maybe we can finally get to the bottom of your fucking Tom Hanks thing.
Oh, we definitely will.
All right.
Especially since like that is the platonic like ideal way to get to my Tom Hanks thing. Fucking Forrest Gump. Fucking trash film. Spoilers, everyone. I think fucking Forrest Gump is a fucking trash film.
I bet it's fine.
No, it is. You know how Robert Zemeckis hates black people?
I mean, maybe.
I mean, for first he has Michael J. Fox invent rock and roll music.
Right, of course, yes.
And then in Forrest Gump, fucking, we'll get there. I think Forrest Gump is one of the most reprehensible movies of the 1990s. Like, genuinely disgusting film with disgusting content. And it's all Tom Hanks' fault for selling it to people and making people think that it is what poisoned boomers' minds.
Save some for the episode, Isabelle. That's a good hook, though. It'll get the people tuning in. So you've got that to look forward to. For now, it is plug time. So we're getting up to 2 hours now. If you like any
a lot of that
this,
was you looking for a book that I didn't even need the quote from, though. So,
I mean, that was a couple minutes at most. There's more audio of me laughing to myself while you took a piss than there is of me looking for that book in my book.
And we'll make sure to append all of that to the end of the episode.
Yes. We'll release it as a bonus feature. Just me laughing for 90 seconds.
Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, at some point we're going to need to do a bonus episode. We discussed this last ep where we have more pod. And also, like, I am now getting a backlog of things to read to you. And I feel like we're going to have like an episode that's just reading mail and me reading that stuff to you. Yeah,
well, we already issued the challenge. We need to get to, 5,000 plays to get to do like a mailbag episode or something?
I thought it was just we need to get more like questions.
Oh, yeah, that too. I mean, listen, whatever. I mean, I don't even remember what our threshold was, but anyway. If you like any of this bullshit...
is ancestry tests for dogs. That's all we're going to get to.
Oh my god. Okay. So, if you like any of this, for some reason, well, first of all, thank you for your patronage. Second of all, you can get in touch with us at middlebrowmadness@gmail.com. That's our email address. Send us questions and assorted miscellanea you might think is interesting to us.
Derek, hold on. Pause. I just went on Twitter real quick while you're reading everything. I just need to read this. #cummies. People discuss cryptocurrency for adult creators, which has seen a price surge after a cryptic tweet by Elon Musk. Elon Musk tweeted about cummies, and now cryptocurrency is taken off.
No! Why?
Derek, you're just as good as mine. I refuse!
No! This is the line. You save that for next time. We are at 2 hours.
I don't have anything else to say about cummies.
Oh my god! If I had the power to strike one word from the universe...
It would be cummies.
It would be cummies. I would shotgun Cummies' mom in front of him. I fucking... No word makes my skin crawl like that.
Hey, oh god, I can't believe I'm about to say this. You know who's really good at producing cummies? It's moms. It's mommies.
We got a lot of podcasts left, and I'm going to have to endure a lot of this, so I better get used to it. If for some reason you like...
If you like this podcast, if you like mommies, or if you like cummies, that's the 3 requirements we got.
middlebrowmadness@gmail.com is our email address, our all-purpose email address. You can get on
Let's
on
not
Twitter
say
again.
That much. You can be restrained. Please don't send us any cummies. If you want to send us some mommies, that's fine. But don't send us any cummies, please. Use
your better judgment, dear listener. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter. We are at middlebrowpod on Twitter. We are also on Twitter individually at Derek_G, that's me, and at Space Jam Fan, that is Isabelle. Isabelle, are you going to be seeing Space Jam 2 with LeBron James?
At some point in the future.
Okay.
Here's the problem. Is that I made Space Jam Fan my username like 6 years ago.
We are so close to the end.
Sorry, 9 years ago. I mean, Space Jam's fine. I don't want to go by Space Jam Fan anymore, but the problem is I have this backlog of episodes, so I'm going to have to make the name different, but immediately have another window up where I can register Space Jam Fan as a Twitter to automatically tell people to redirect to my new Twitter name. That's what's going to have to happen, and I'm too lazy to do that. So until then, I'm still Space Jam Fan, and to be fair, I'm also morally against seeing Space Jam 2 until they restore Pepe Le Pew being problematic.
Or Lola Bunny being dummy thick.
Yes, that needs to happen. Why would you watch a Space Jam fan in which Lola Bunny is not, like, making you into a furry? That's the whole point of the movie.
Oh, Lord. I thought the whole point of that movie was crass commercialism for Warner Brothers properties and a charm offensive by Michael Jordan, who's a complete asshole in real life.
I was like, yeah, hard to get a charm offensive from that man, but hey.
We are also on Letterboxd.
Yes.
I'm at Derek_G, and Isabelle is also at Space Jam Fan. Listen to. We are on the Noise Space Podcast Network. I can't believe they haven't kicked us the fuck off yet, because we update erratically and post bullshit, but whatever. You can also listen to other shows on the network, including For a Good Time, where Isabelle and my friend and yours, Juan Barkeen, talk about pornography, etc. Listen, I know there's mail we have to read. We'll get to it. Just kind of bear with us.
We're trying. See, in my head, I wanted to make this a shorter episode since I'm like,
nope,
over at my partner's house and I wanted to like hang out with her more. I apologize to everyone who had to listen to this 2 hours. And to her, but I can do that later.
This is probably going to end up being like an hour 45 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, this is... We took a lot... There's a lot of shit at the beginning about bullshit that was in movies. More than usual.
Hey,
but that's okay. People love that shit.
Not all bullshit.
No, the IDF cat girl was not bullshit. It's very real and very true.
I was thinking more the struggle of the Palestinian people, Derek. But sure.
That too. That's very true. I mean, that's also very true. Don't try to make me look like a fucking asshole. I'm here doing
Derek
bits,
doesn't
okay?
care about apartheid. Oh, I see how it is.
Oh my lord. I'm going to end this show before I get canceled. So I will invite you to say your name and sign off.
I've been Isabelle Arf.
And I've been Derek Gade. Have movies, be jolly.
Have movies, be jolly. Good night.
Good night. Oof.